you had a fight recently, and congrats on your win. Can you
Thank you
tell
so
me what
much.
you did for your celebration? Like, what was that night like after the fight?
Yeah, it was just a wild ride in the capacity that it was like an accumulation of obviously all the hard work for the fight, but also the fight outside of the cage, being sanctioned to medicate with cannabis and what that means for other athletes moving forward in Colorado. So, no, it was just good kind of being around like the place that it was in Greeley, Colorado. It's kind of a dry town or whatever like that, so everything kind of closes a little earlier, especially with COVID, yada yada yada. So I had this big Airbnb that I rented while I was there, and I just enjoyed it with friends and family, and smoked a lot of weed from beginning to middle and end. Basically, it was kind of that's what I kind of like love about the fight. Obviously, there's this whole build up too, but I'm lucky enough to have all these friends and families that come out to different fights. So it was good to have my parents there, my coaches, some friends that came out and stuff like that, and some friends that were out in the area to begin with, and just kind of like just marinated in the whole experience, and that's what I was able to do, and wouldn't trade it for the world.
That's great. Colorado's a great place for that as well. I imagine the after party, the Airbnb had a volcano set up and had a
Yeah,
mighty out, and or did you have some nice Colorado concentrates? Were you dabbing at all?
it was mostly flour, some dope kush that we ended up smoking all the way through.
Nice.
So yeah, man, fight was cool, man. Dude, I thought you had that guy put down in the first. He was almost out, man. I was bumming that he stayed awake.
Yeah. Well, it's a learning lesson in regards to the way I jumped on him. I should have just put neon belly. Like I jumped on him right away. In the first. For those that didn't see it, I dropped him pretty early in the fight, and then I swarmed on him. But the way I swarmed on him, it didn't allow me to extend and just kind of put him out, if you will. And he was obviously trying to not get put out, and there was a couple moments too where he kind of, the old saying goes, "If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying." He actually was grabbing my glove. So like he put one hand on my tricep, which is the right thing to do, kind of a block. The other part is where the glove is. He was reaching in and kind of grabbing there and like dictating where my hand was. And even a couple times earlier or later on in the fight, he was putting his toes in the cage and trying to walk in across, which you're not supposed to do.
I
And he was
saw that.
warned a couple times, and even got a point taken away from him. So all the power to him. Still was able to get the win in more than dominant fashion, and it was one of those things where it's a learning lesson where 9 times out of 10 I would have done the right thing, but I was trying to like swarm on him as quick as possible, and he survived to tell a tale.
Swarm, is that like the ground and pound? Is that the same thing? Like when you
Yeah,
knock
that's
somebody
what I
down,
was
you
doing.
okay.
Yeah, so I dropped him. I basically did like it was some type of a combination of like a hook uppercut while we were standing up in the clinch, and he went down. And then as soon as he went down, I dove into him. But the way I dove into him, I like committed my hips almost to his, where instead I almost got to put my knee on his belly and kind of like just like, for lack of a better word, like knee on him and just fucking just go for it. So giving him that opportunity to kind of get his, the clear the cobwebs, he was able to survive the round.
Now, I mean, I saw him with the feet in the cage kind of thing, and I'll notice when refs point out stuff, don't do this, but I've never heard of the glove thing before. How often does shit go on like that that's illegal that nobody knows about? Is that every
Well,
fight? It's always going on,
yeah,
or
sometimes
what?
it's a weird battle to trying to get in the attention of the ref, right? Because like that's the person that needs to see it. Like it's one thing if I notice it and it's hindering me, but I gotta like almost verbalize it and let him know. And I did here and there because he was kind of crying sour milk when, for instance, there was a certain part of the fight where it was almost like a cat and mouse game because of the way he had his head in the second round trying to take me down. I was elbowing him. And the funny little caveat is the only thing that hurt for me was me elbowing him in the head.
That
Like,
sucks.
so that's how bad that must have hurt him.
Right.
So, point being, what's it called? The way he had his head in, he was playing a cat and mouse. He was turning his head away from me. So, like, in reality, it's kind of like a gray zone in the capacity of, if you're turning it away, then you're kind of putting yourself in harm's way. But just because he's like, especially with punches, like if for instance, if we're fighting and I turn around and while you punch and you punch me in the back of the head, even though technically it's basically like a strip from your spine down, from like the top of your head and down, that you're not supposed to touch, just because like nerve endings. And again, it's just like that area you're not supposed to hit, like behind the ears, right? Like you're not supposed to hit and stuff like that. But if you turn, if someone throws a punch and you turn and run away and it hits you, it's not like it's the guy that's throwing the punch, it's the guy that's running away. So in the fight, I'm hitting him and he's not moving because he's holding this this takedown that's not going to get me down, and he's putting so much energy in it, but he's just kind of tucking his head away. And it's like, well, again, I'm kind of hitting you on the side of it, but you're literally running away, but with me against the wall and I have nowhere to go. So it was like this
Right.
weird cat and mouse where I didn't go, I just lay it on him when I could have, again, probably put him out again in that position as well.
Interesting, man. There's so much to that, you know, as somebody who doesn't fight, I mean, you got a whole, there's so much discipline, knowledge, chess match, you know, steps ahead that you guys do that, you know, from a casual observer, it blows my mind when I actually get to talk to somebody and you're talking about that kind of stuff. Like, I would never thought that.
Yeah, no, there's definitely, again, like you said, like there's a whole process to it. And it's, you know, it was a wild ride, and especially obviously what it means more broadly speaking for the sport, for cannabis in sports. And then the organization, Colorado Combat Club, they have another event Friday, March 25th that I'm gonna be a part of. I'm not gonna be fighting, but I'll be helping other athletes with their own therapeutic use exemption to allow other athletes to be able to medicate with cannabis, because it's not just about me and then my journey, it's about creating access. And that's what I kind of want to do. Keep fighting for access of cannabis in sports, in medicine, and just more broadly speaking.
We're gonna get a little ring boy spot.
Maybe from some of the female fights.
For those of you who don't know, Elias, given how easy he is on the eyes, can be a ring boy sometimes as well. So he's not just fighting; he can get out there, and when the ladies fight, he can do the hold the cards and run around and be the sexy man. So that's dope, man. I'd love to see that again. That was pretty funny, man. You segued perfectly for us, man, because I was gonna let you talk about what you did in Colorado as far as changing things too.
Well, I'm really excited, and kind of like the little kind of icing on the cherry. This, if I do it, then this will probably be my sixth organization that I've been a ring boy for. Most
Nice.
prominent would be Invicta, and that's kind of where I was applying for the job in the first place with that whole video. It's I guess like the largest female MMA organization. So during the conversations to cancel ring girls and that whole topic, I said that in the true pursuit of equality, the it's not to subtract someone's job, it's just to add it. Like and it's a fun obviously role, but it kind of just talks to the greater part of not trying to cancel something that's kind of been a part of something for a reason. Like there's a lot of ring girls that have created whole professions leveraging off of it and doing it obviously for like the UFC and Bellator. And again, though I understand where the concept is coming from, but I think the whole concept of a ring girl is here to stay, and for good reason.
Wow, I like that. I like the whole equality isn't about subtraction. It's about addition.
Yeah.
That's a great approach. I like that.
Well, then they did the same thing in regards to, again, with mixed martial arts. The UFC was a little later to adding females, but I think that part of that was just where it kind of like sat as a sport at the time. I think they were, it wasn't really legitimized or accepted as a mainstream sport until, like, the last 10 years. And they didn't want to have the potential of some type of controversy with a fight or two on a female side. And then obviously all that changed with someone like Ronda Rousey that made it economically, worth
Right.
the risk.
That's all it takes.
And from there, again, the UFC is one of the more progressive sports where they have men and women headlining events, all the way on the card, all the way through the card, from the prelims, the main card, all the way to the main event. So, I know mixed martial arts in many ways has kind of been on the forefront. That it's a new sport altogether, and it may have taken longer than it should have. But I think it's on the right track right now.
I agree, and I think it'd be cool to see even a mixed gender league. When I took Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu a number of years ago, about a third of the class were women, and they were all badasses who whooped my ass. And I think people need to understand that women can really be badasses.
There's some examples. One of the champions, Germaine, I'm forgetting her first name. She did a kickboxing fight and just knocked the crap out of a dude the same weight as her.
Wow. Put it down. Nice.
But when there's jiu-jitsu is a little bit more, I'd be a little more open to the whole concept of jiu-jitsu. But again, at the same time, if it's two willing opponents, then it makes sense. With jiu-jitsu, it also makes sense as well, because especially without the, like, removing even the whole concept of striking to the head and stuff like that, being able to again grapple, and the concept of, and the component of just overall technique can definitely prevail.
Well, I'm all for it. I mean, hell, I'm still looking for that little kids league that I can finally whoop some ass in. So.
Yeah, Jerry's still
I got
looking
no
for his
problem
first
with it.
fight. No such thing as a fair fight.
No?
No, not really. I mean, everyone, there's always going to be an advantage somewhere. Two people aren't ever really equal in
Completely
a fight.
equal. I get that.
Someone always has more experience or more training or better eyesight or faster something, longer reach.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a fair fight in the capacity of equal, especially in regards to my sport, the whole concept of equal opportunity in regards to both have a set amount of training, and obviously one will be definitely better in the end, because the better man wins or the better woman wins. But I think the ability to have a contract which stipulates the same amount of opportunity, it's really what you're able to put together. And sometimes the better man or better woman wins, and sometimes they don't. So it really just also comes down to who's better at putting it all together on game day.
How much of it would you say is a mental game?
Quite a bit, especially in the there's people that are murderers in the gym, and they just can't put it together come fight night. So I've seen that over the years. I've even seen it on, like, for instance, like the reality show that I was a part of, The Ultimate Fighter. Basically, someone that came in as kind of was billed as like the the destroyer, if you will, and the other one was kind of built as more or less like a punk kid. He was young, he was a wild man, if you will, and undefeated record. Whereas the other one was like almost like the Van Damme, like looks like a fighter, like a specimen, and everything he hits in the gym, his attitude, his just like demeanor is just so much more tough and rugged. Where the other guy's like playful, like, haha, I'm gonna fight. And especially like viewing it behind the scenes, and then how it kind of like looks on the whole concept of a reality show, and kind of how it all played together. It's very interesting, the aspect of when it all comes together 9 out of 10 times, the one guy should have maybe won, but building on this TV show, building in the surroundings that happen, when he hit him, everyone expected him just to like poof disappear, like, you know what I mean, like it just poof knockout, and it didn't happen, and it even took him by surprise. So that narrative that he built in his head, that he almost believed it, if you will. He may have well been the better fighter, but on that day, because of what he expected, and it didn't like transpire exactly like that, it very much tilted it in a way that, again, 9 times out of 10, the better person does win. But this one time, he didn't.
What do you think about like the WWF and like the TV wrestling type of content?
Well, I think the current is kind of like decent. There's some really great guys and gals out there, and also even like, you know, and like you see WWE, there's a bunch of different other independent ones that are out there. NXT as well, of not like, you know, the main stage in regards to it, like their storyline and what Triple H has been able to kind of put together on that end has been pretty interesting and fun. But Attitude Era forever. If we're talking pro wrestling, Attitude Era forever.
Attitude
So,
Era.
these guys are like a blend of athlete and actor, right? Like
For
it's
sure.
it's
Yeah.
it's a, you know, I mean, these guys are taking semi real hits, or at least depending on
Hmm. And
the
just the
show.
whether it's the overall agility, athleticism, you know, acrobatics, timing, and again, almost being like almost like an artist with it, having to put on that show. You know, they're definitely professional performers.
Has anyone ever blended the line or crossed?
Oh, there's
Because
quite
I
a
know
few.
like
There's quite a few that have
musicians
gone on.
have got involved, but so like real fighters have been in
Yeah.
both.
Ronda Rousey, she left when she left the UFC, she went to WWE. There's been, you know, Bobby Lashley, there's been, you know, Brock Lesnar. That's one of the biggest examples, of course. He was he was the UFC champion and fought for essentially being the UFC championship a few times as well, kind of in between his career run. And then you know, there's a whole bunch of other ones that have made the cross, and mixed martial arts and WWE very much more specifically the UFC and WWE very much have a you know, intertwined relationship and history. You know, Frank Shamrock, there's a whole bunch of guys that have gone, and now obviously women with Ronda Rousey, and there's a few other ones, especially in the NEX. Ronda Rousey's like they call it like, it was a play on Ric Flair and all those
Woo!
guys, but all the guys of the Four Horsemen, and they had like a whole spin off of the Four Horsemen, and it was Ronda and her three fighter partners, like training partners, that made the cross as well with her. So Ronda Rousey, when she went, she brought three of her former training partners in MMA over to WWE, but more specifically, I think a couple of them have shined on NXT.
Wow, I had no idea. I had no idea there were such big overlaps.
I when my kid was younger, he was really into the WWE, and he I think he was 10, and he wanted to take his birthday money and do the pay-per-view event, and you know, he did. He took all $60 of his birthday money and bought the pay-per-view event. Nobody was really interested in this other than him. And I was like, damn, I'm gonna watch this with him, man. So I went down there and watched it. And I wasn't into wrestling; it hadn't been a long time, but I watched it. And on the pay-per-view, they fucking go an extra 30%, man. I mean, like everything's higher, harder, faster. Like they were not fucking around. And then a few years later, I took him to the only live event, or the first live event that came here that I remember. So when they came live to our town, I took him to that, and he was probably, I don't know, couldn't have been 14, maybe younger than that. And I came away thoroughly impressed, man. Like between all, when they break the commercial and shit, those guys are out there entertaining and interacting with the crowds and getting them hyped. And it was just, it was different, man. I'm like, I'd watch it on TV, but when I went live, I was like, this was a lot of fun. Like, I'm not into it at all, but I would come back to that. It was a fucking
For
fun
sure.
time, man.
For sure. No, it's a wild ride. And it's crazy that they do it like almost more than once a week, every week. Like especially with the different shows and stuff like that. It's basically like it might be like 2 to 3 shows nationwide every single week.
That's a lot for that kind of activity, man. I mean, I know it's not fighting, but they're getting hit, man. So
Oh
I can
yeah,
imagine
hits, the wear, the
Elias,
tear.
man.
an Elias moniker, like a Elias in the Wrestling Federation with like a cannabis persona where he's like the stoner
Oh,
guy.
this is it. We
Huh.
got you. This is your next. I was going to ask you what's next, but Troy just did
This
it,
is
man. He
There you
called
go.
it.
10 years down the road.
Dope boy.
Dude,
But,
dope
yes.
boy. That's it. I
Dope
love
man.
it.
Something to that effect. What was I gonna say?
The Mighty Dope Man,
Yes.
sponsored by Stores and Bickle.
I love that.
I'm going along the lines of
We're on a
what was
roll.
it? The Mighty, bouncing off the Mighty. Yeah. Well, I have made my pro debut before. So I went as Grease Lightning, which spelled like almost like the whole concept of like Greek. So it was like GREECE. And then I was in all white spandex, like but with like the shirts ripplet, the sleeves torn off. So it was like a spandex thing, like a onesie suit. Not a onesie suit, it's more like a spandex suit. And I just ripped the arms out. And I got a Greek little flag and I put it as my cape. My finishing move was the what do you call it? The Superman comb knockout off the top ropes.
How long ago was this?
Probably about 6 years ago was the last time maybe 5 years ago was the last time I did. I did it twice.
Nice, man. They kicked you out because you kept really hitting people?
Yeah, I did. Oops.
Whoops.
Oh,
No,
I forgot.
what was I gonna say? They were awesome. It's Super Kicks. It's a Toronto-based independent wrestling organization, and they're awesome. Like the same kind of concept. They have like almost like what is it? It's some kind of theater of sorts that they're always there. Even now they're still doing it. They have like their own studio, and even through COVID, they're putting their own shows together and stuff like that.
Dang. Crushing it, man. That's how you do it.
So when's your next big event?
The next fight's going to be likely in March, April. That's kind of the game plan. Just figuring out which organization and which direction I want to go. Obviously, I've been fighting the good fight, kind of like on my own direction. But now that I have done Canada and the US, I might be able to be in a role where I help others do it. And it's kind of like, especially in regards to what I wanted to accomplish was getting both Canada and the US. And now I can go to some of the larger organizations again and, really make a run, really make a focus, improving. I'm one of the best in the world. So that's kind of the game plan on that aspect. There's different conversations that we're kind of having. But for me specifically, it's just getting back, I want to, I didn't have any injuries and I want to keep it that way. So I'm kind of going, slowly back into it, getting my fitness back into it, working on my mobility, working on my flexibility, kind of trying to progress as an athlete, more broadly speaking, altogether. So that's what I'm kind of focusing on for the next little bit. And then looking, like I said, sometime in the spring, possibly as close to 420 as possible to fight next.
Nice. That would be a 420 event. And you have been out there fighting the good fight. You've made a big difference. You've made an impact on the sports world and on the cannabis world. It's been amazing. How about doing a cannabis like event, like a fight where people can consume in the audience, like a sanctioned public consumption social thing?
That's what we were trying to do in BC for the one in Canada, but just with COVID and like the timing and the delays, we were originally supposed to do that outside in the summer, and they kind of got pushed all the way or summer / early or the lead up to fall, basically because the whole kind of concept was at one point to have it tied with the legalization of anniversary of Canada, which is October 17th. And that was when originally the game plan was going to happen. But because of COVID, obviously everything got kind of delayed. And then From there, I was able to do it in March. So around that time, it was a little too cold, a little too. Again, there was, you know, yo-yos in regards to just restrictions and what jurisdiction was doing what, and it just kind of made sense to do it the way we did. But that was something definitely we were trying to do. I think moving forward, there's an opportunity again, not necessarily on the property, but there's different avenues that I still have planned moving forward that go kind of beyond even MMA in regards to you know, creating and knocking down barriers and creating opportunity for other athletes to apply for their own therapeutic exemption by becoming precedent, and then again opening that door for others. So that's I still got one more you know, ace up my sleeve, I think, in that capacity. But there's also you know, the focus right now of proving again to the world that I'm one of the best in the world. So just kind of getting back to the, you know, the grind, and jumping back into it and looking to get back in there in about spring.
What's up, Troy?
Happy Friday, Jerry.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, man.